I thought fixing broken machines was hard until I discovered my wife was broken too. Every Tuesday, Diana kissed me goodbye and said she was going to yoga, but yoga doesn't end with expensive wine and another man's hands on your waist. So while she danced in dim-lit bars, I built my escape plan, one calculated move at a time. She thought she was playing me, but I was already 3 steps ahead. My name is James Holloway. I'm 41 years old, and I've been fixing broken machines my whole life. Bulldozers, excavators, cranes. If it's got hydraulics and weighs more than a pickup truck, I can probably make it purr like new. Started my own shop 8 years ago after working for other people long enough to know I could do it better. Diana used to be proud of that. Used to brag to her lawyer friends about her husband, who could rebuild a transmission with his eyes closed. The twins came to us after years of trying. Diana was 34 when we finally got the call from the adoption agency. 2 babies, brother and sister, born 3 minutes apart to a teenager who couldn't keep them. We drove to Phoenix that same day, our hearts hammering the whole 6-hour ride. When I held Owen for the first time, his tiny fingers wrapped around my thumb, I knew my world had just doubled in size. Emma was smaller, quieter, but her eyes followed everything like she was already planning her next move. Diana cried happy tears that day. Real ones. For 9 years, we were solid. Diana built her practice from nothing, handling divorces and custody cases while I grew the shop from a 2-bay garage to a full-service operation with 4 mechanics. We worked different hours, but always made time for the kids. Soccer games, school plays, camping trips to Sedona, where Owen would collect rocks and Emma would read 3 books in a weekend. We had the college fund growing, the mortgage under control, and a 10-year plan that made sense. Then Preston Vale walked into Diana's office. I didn't know his name then. Didn't know he was 37, divorced, and handled corporate litigation for the biggest law firm in Phoenix. Didn't know he drove a silver BMW, or that he'd been watching my wife during those boring legal conferences she attended. All I knew was that Diana started changing. It started small. New perfume that made her smell like expensive flowers instead of the vanilla lotion she'd worn since college. Designer clothes that cost more than my monthly insurance payment. She said the firm was doing well, that she needed to look successful for new clients. Made sense, I guess. I was proud she was moving up in the world. But then came the phone calls. Hushed conversations in the garage while I was working late. Quick text responses that made her smile in ways I hadn't seen in months. When I asked who she was talking to, she'd say it was work stuff, boring legal nonsense I wouldn't understand. She wasn't wrong about that part. I never pretended to know anything about depositions or court filings. I trusted her. The Tuesday night meetings started in March. Diana would kiss my cheek around 6:30, tell me she had to meet with a difficult client and wouldn't be back until after 10. The first few times, I didn't think much of it. But then I noticed she'd shower immediately when she got home. Change clothes. Her hair would smell different, like expensive restaurants and wine I couldn't pronounce. Owen started asking why Mommy was never home for bedtime stories anymore. Emma would wait by the window, watching for headlights that came later and later each week. I'd make excuses, tell them Mommy was helping people who needed a good lawyer. But inside, something cold was growing in my chest. The night everything changed was a Thursday in April. Diana was supposed to be at another client meeting, but Owen had fallen off his bike and needed stitches. I tried calling her cell 6 times. Straight to voicemail. Finally reached her around 9, and she sounded breathless, distracted. Background noise that didn't sound like any law office I'd ever been in. That's when I knew. Didn't want to believe it, but I knew. After Owen's accident, something switched on inside my head. Call it instinct, call it paranoia, doesn't matter. I needed answers. The next morning, I drove to Radio Shack and bought a GPS tracker the size of a quarter. Cost me $200 I couldn't really spare, but some things are worth the investment. Installing it took 5 minutes. Diana's Lexus was parked in the driveway while she got ready for work. I slid under the rear bumper with my shop light, found a clean spot near the spare tire, and magnetic mounted the device where road salt and car washes would never find it. She walked out 20 minutes later, coffee in hand, completely unaware that her husband had just become a private investigator. The first week was routine. Home to office, office to courthouse, courthouse to home. Normal lawyer stuff. I started thinking maybe I was losing my mind, seeing problems where none existed. Maybe those Tuesday meetings really were client conferences. Maybe I was just a jealous husband with too much time on his hands. Then came Tuesday, April 16th. Diana left the house at 6:15, same as always. Told me she had a custody mediation that might run late, kissed the twins goodbye, and drove toward downtown Phoenix. I watched the little red dot on my phone move through traffic, expecting it to stop at her office building. Instead, it turned north on 7th Street and kept going. The dot stopped at Marcello's Italian, a place we'd never been together. Too expensive for our usual date nights, the kind of restaurant where appetizers cost more than my lunch. Diana's car sat in that parking lot for 3 hours and 12 minutes. I know because I watched every second tick by on my phone screen. When she came home that night, she was humming. Actually humming some song I didn't recognize while she hung up her jacket. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes bright in a way they hadn't been in months. How was the mediation? I asked from the couch, trying to keep my voice casual. Diana looked at me like she'd forgotten I existed. Oh, that. Difficult case. Very emotional. I'm exhausted. She didn't look exhausted. She looked like a woman who just spent the evening laughing over expensive wine with someone who wasn't her husband. The kids missed you at dinner, I said. Diana nodded absently, already heading toward the stairs. I'll make it up to them this weekend. But she wouldn't. Because this weekend, she'd find another excuse. Another emergency meeting, another difficult client, another reason to disappear while I held our family together with both hands. That night, I lay in bed listening to her breathe, wondering how long this had been going on. Wondering if I was the last person in Phoenix to figure out that my wife was having an affair. Wondering what kind of man Preston Vale was, and whether he knew about Owen and Emma. Most of all, I wondered what I was going to do about it. Thursday night arrived like a freight train. I picked up the twins from school, helped them with homework, and made dinner while watching Diana get ready for another client meeting. She spent 40 minutes on her makeup, more time than she'd spent on our last anniversary. Where are you meeting this client? I asked, keeping my voice level. Diana barely looked up from her phone. Downtown. Could be late again. That was a lie. The GPS showed her heading to Preston Vale's apartment complex in Scottsdale. I'd done my homework on him too. Divorced, no kids, lived in one of those trendy places with a pool and a gym he probably never used. After putting Owen and Emma to bed, I made a decision that would have shocked the old me. I loaded my truck with a thermos of coffee and my hunting binoculars, then drove to Scottsdale. Preston's building was all glass and steel, the kind of place that screamed successful professional. Diana's Lexus sat in visitor parking like it belonged there. I found a spot across the street with a clear view of the building entrance and settled in to wait. 2 hours later, they came out together. Preston had his hand on the small of Diana's back, guiding her toward the parking garage. She was laughing at something he'd said, her head thrown back in a way that made my chest tighten. This wasn't some business dinner. This was a woman comfortable with a man who wasn't her husband. I took pictures, lots of them, clear shots of Diana's face, Preston's possessive gestures, the way they moved together like they'd done this dance before. When they kissed in the shadow of his BMW, I captured that too. The drive home was the longest 20 minutes of my life. I kept seeing that kiss, the easy intimacy between them. Diana didn't get home until after midnight. She slipped into bed thinking I was asleep, but I lay there staring at the ceiling, planning my next move. Some bridges, once you burn them, can never be rebuilt. Diana had lit the match when she chose Preston Vale over our family. Now it was my turn to provide the gasoline. I wasn't going to be the fool who begged his cheating wife to come home. I was going to be the man who disappeared before she realized what she'd lost. Friday morning, I called in sick to the shop, told my foreman I had food poisoning and wouldn't be back until Monday. Then I drove to the bank where Diana and I had done business for 15 years. I need to restructure some accounts, I told the manager, sliding documents across his desk. Business purposes. The manager, Tom Bradley, had handled our loan since I bought the shop. He looked over the paperwork with professional interest, not knowing he was helping me prepare for war. You want to move everything to the business account? Tom asked. Most of it, I said. Keep the joint checking open, but minimal balance. I'm expanding the shop. Need better cash flow control. It took 3 hours to reorganize our financial life. Business account in my name only, new savings account at a different bank, automatic transfers set up to move money gradually. Diana never paid attention to our finances, said numbers gave her a headache. That oversight was about to cost her everything. Next stop, Russo Investigations. Frank Russo was a retired Phoenix PD detective who specialized in divorce cases. His office smelled like coffee and old cigarettes, walls covered with certificates and commendations from his cop days. "Your wife's having an affair," Frank said after I explained the situation. It wasn't a question. "I need documentation," I replied. "Court-quality evidence." Frank leaned back in his chair, studying me. "This gets expensive fast. You sure you want to go down this road?" "I've got 2 kids to protect," I said. "Diana's going to fight for custody, claim I'm an unfit father. I need everything you can get on her in Prestonvale." Frank nodded slowly. "Give me 2 weeks. I'll get you enough evidence to bury them both." That evening, Diana came home early for once. She helped Emma with her reading and listened to Owen talk about his science project. For a moment, watching her with our kids, I almost convinced myself this was all a nightmare. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and smiled. That same private smile I'd seen too many times lately. "Who was that?" Emma asked innocently. Diana's face flushed. "Just work, sweetheart. Boring grown-up stuff." Emma nodded and went back to her book. But I saw the lie land between them like a stone dropping into still water. Our daughter was 9 years old, and she was already learning that her mother wasn't telling the truth. That night, I started sleeping in the guest room. Told Diana I was having back problems from work. Another lie to add to the collection we were both building. Frank Russo delivered his report on a gray Monday morning that felt like the end of the world. His evidence folder was thick enough to choke a horse. Photographs, financial records, witness statements, even hotel receipts with both Diana and Preston's names on them. "Your wife's been busy," Frank said, spreading photos across his desk. 6 months minimum, probably longer. This isn't some workplace flirtation that got out of hand. This is a full-blown relationship. The pictures told the story I'd been dreading. Diana and Preston at restaurants I couldn't afford, walking hand in hand through Scottsdale Fashion Square, kissing in parking lots like teenagers. The worst one showed them coming out of the Phoenician Resort at 10 in the morning, both looking satisfied and rumpled. "There's more," Frank continued. "Preston Vale's got a history. This is his 3rd affair with a married woman. First 2 ended with the husbands getting cleaned out in divorce court. Guy's got a pattern." That hit me like a sledgehammer. Diana wasn't Preston's first conquest. She was just his latest victim. Except she didn't know she was the victim yet. "What about their work connection?" I asked. Frank pulled out another file. "That's where it gets interesting. Vale's firm represents Morrison Construction, one of your biggest clients. He's been feeding Diana inside information about their legal needs, helping her win cases she shouldn't have won. It's not technically illegal, but it's definitely unethical." The pieces were falling into place. Diana's sudden success, the expensive clothes, the confidence boost that made her think she could do better than a mechanic who fixed broken machines. Preston had been grooming her for months, maybe years. That evening, Diana came home humming again. She'd been doing that a lot lately, walking around our house like she was floating on air. The twins ran to hug her, and for a moment she seemed genuinely happy to see them. "How was your day, sweetheart?" she asked Emma, ruffling our daughter's hair. "Good. Daddy helped me with my math homework, and we made cookies," Emma replied. Diana's smile faltered slightly. "Daddy's been helping with homework a lot lately. Because you're always at work," Owen said matter-of-factly. "You missed my soccer practice again." The guilt that flashed across Diana's face lasted maybe 2 seconds before she composed herself. "I'm sorry, honey. Mommy's been very busy with important cases. It won't always be like this." But it would be, because Diana had made her choice, and it wasn't us. That night, after the kids were asleep, I confronted her about the hotel receipts Frank had uncovered. Not directly. I wasn't ready to show my full hand yet. I just mentioned that Owen's teacher had seen her at the Phoenician last Tuesday. Diana's face went white. "Mrs. Peterson must be mistaken. I was at the courthouse all day Tuesday. Maybe she confused you with someone else," I said, watching Diana's relief flood back. "Yes, that must be it," Diana said quickly. "You know how these things happen." But I knew exactly how these things happened. And soon, so would she. The hardest part of any war is protecting the innocent. Emma and Owen had no idea their world was about to implode, and I intended to keep it that way as long as possible. But kids are smarter than adults give them credit for. "Daddy, is Mommy sick?" Emma asked one morning while I was making breakfast. Diana had left early for another emergency client meeting, which my GPS tracker showed was actually a breakfast date with Preston at the Ritz-Carlton. "Why would you ask that, sweetheart?" I said, keeping my voice calm while flipping pancakes. "She seems sad sometimes, and she doesn't laugh at your jokes anymore." Out of the mouths of babes. 9-year-old Emma had noticed what I'd been trying to ignore for months. Diana hadn't laughed at anything I'd said in so long I'd forgotten what her real laugh sounded like. "Sometimes grown-ups get stressed about work," I explained. "It doesn't mean anything's wrong between mommy and daddy." But everything was wrong, and it was about to get worse. That afternoon, Child Protective Services showed up at my shop. A social worker named Lisa Hamilton, all business in her gray suit and clipboard, asking questions about her home life that made my blood run cold. "We received an anonymous report about potential neglect," she explained. "Someone claimed the children were left unsupervised while both parents were out of the house." My mind raced. Diana had been gone Tuesday night until almost 11, and I'd been at the shop late working on an emergency repair. The twins were old enough to stay alone for a few hours, but not legally. "Who filed the report?" I asked. "I can't disclose that information," Lisa Hamilton replied. "But I need to schedule a home visit to assess the situation." After she left, I called Frank Russo. He answered on the first ring, like he'd been expecting my call. "Someone's playing dirty," Frank said when I explained about CPS. "This reeks of Preston Vale. Guy's trying to establish grounds for an unfit father claim." "Can he do that?" "He can try, but two can play that game. I'll have someone watching your house 24/7 from now on. Every time Diana leaves those kids alone, we'll document it." That evening, I sat Owen and Emma down for the hardest conversation of my life. I explained that some people might ask them questions about our family, and they should always tell the truth, but remember that Daddy and Mommy love them very much. "Are you and Mommy getting divorced?" Owen asked with the brutal honesty only a 9-year-old could manage. I looked at my son, seeing my own eyes staring back at me, and realized I couldn't lie anymore. "I don't know, buddy, but whatever happens, you and Emma are the most important things in my life. That will never change." Emma climbed into my lap, wrapping her small arms around my neck. "I love you, Daddy. I love you too, sweetheart. Both of you. Forever and always." That night, after tucking them in, I stood in their doorway watching them sleep. Two beautiful children who deserved better than parents who couldn't keep their marriage together. Diana might have given up on us, but I would never give up on them. The war was just beginning. Tuesday morning, I did something I'd never done in 15 years of marriage. I called Diana's office and spoke to her assistant, Rebecca. "I need to know Diana's schedule for today," I said. "It's about the children's school emergency." Rebecca, who'd always liked me, gave me everything without question. Diana had court at 9, client meetings until 3, then a deposition that would run until at least 6. She wouldn't be home until after 7. Perfect. I picked up Owen and Emma from school early, telling their teachers we had a family emergency. Then I drove straight to Storage Plus on the west side of Phoenix, where I'd been quietly moving my most valuable tools and equipment for the past 2 weeks. "Are we moving, Daddy?" Emma asked as I loaded boxes into the truck. "Just reorganizing some things, sweetheart," I said. "Sometimes grown-ups need to make big changes to make everything better." What I didn't tell her was that by tomorrow, their mother would come home to an empty house and divorce papers taped to the front door. The house clearing took 4 hours. I took only what was mine: tools, clothes, personal documents, and the photo albums from before Diana's affair started. Everything else stayed exactly where it was. I wasn't a thief, just a man reclaiming his life. The hardest part was the twins' rooms. I packed their favorite toys, clothes, and books, trying to make it feel like an adventure instead of an escape. Owen kept asking questions I couldn't answer yet. Emma just watched with those serious brown eyes that missed nothing. "Where are we going to live?" Owen finally asked as I loaded his bike into the truck bed. I knelt down to his level, looking both my children in the eyes. "Remember how we used to talk about living near the ocean? Having a boat and going fishing whenever we wanted?" Their faces lit up with sudden understanding. We'd always dreamed about moving to Florida, buying a little place near the water where the twins could run on the beach and I could start fresh. "We're really doing it," Emma whispered. "We're really doing it," I confirmed. "Tomorrow we start driving to our new adventure." That evening, in our last night in the house Diana and I called home, I sat at the kitchen table and wrote the letter that would end our marriage. Not the legal papers. Those were already filed. This was personal. Diana, by the time you read this, Owen, Emma, and I will be gone. The divorce papers explain the legal reasons. This letter explains the human ones. I gave you everything I had. 17 years of love, loyalty, and sacrifice. I worked extra shifts to pay for your education, held our family together while you built your career, and never once asked for anything except faithfulness in return. You chose Preston Vale over us. You chose lies over truth, excitement over stability, and your own desires over our children's needs. That was your right, but it was also your choice. The twins deserve better than a mother who abandons them for expensive dinners and hotel rooms. They deserve a parent who puts them first, always. Since you can't be that person anymore, I will be. Don't try to find us. Don't call, don't write, don't send lawyers. I have enough evidence of your affair and financial misconduct to destroy you in court. Use this time to decide what matters more, your relationship with Preston Vale or any hope of seeing your children again. You made your choice. Now live with it. James. I sealed the letter in an envelope, wrote Diana's name on the front, and taped it to the bathroom mirror where she'd find it first thing in the morning. Then I loaded the last of our belongings into the truck and drove away from the only home my children had ever known. Behind us, Phoenix disappeared into the desert darkness. Ahead lay Interstate 10 and a new life in Florida, where the ocean was blue and the past couldn't follow us. The twins fell asleep in the back seat somewhere outside Tucson. In the rearview mirror, I could see Owen clutching his favorite stuffed animal while Emma held the book she'd been reading. They trusted me to lead them somewhere better. I wouldn't let them down. Diana found the letter at 6:30 Wednesday morning. I know because she called my disconnected phone number 47 times in the first hour. Then she called the shop, my parents, anyone who might know where I'd gone. She wouldn't find us. I'd planned this disappearance like a military operation, covering every trail and closing every door. We were 3 states away before she even knew we were gone. But Diana wasn't finished destroying lives. When she couldn't reach me, she called the police and reported Owen and Emma as kidnapped. Never mind that I was their father with equal custody rights. Never mind that she'd abandoned them for months to play house with her boyfriend. The call came through on my new phone at a rest stop outside Jacksonville. Detective Maria Santos from Phoenix PD, asking questions about my children's whereabouts. Mr. Holloway, your wife has filed a missing persons report, Detective Santos said. She's very concerned about the children's safety. My children are safe, I replied calmly. They're with their father, who has every legal right to travel with them. Your wife claims you left threatening messages and stole family property. I almost laughed. Detective, I suggest you review the divorce filing that was submitted yesterday morning. Everything I did was completely legal. If Diana wants to discuss my children's welfare, she can do it through her attorney. The conversation ended quickly once Detective Santos realized this was a domestic dispute, not a kidnapping. But the call told me everything I needed to know about Diana's state of mind. She was panicking, making desperate moves that would only hurt her case. That afternoon, we reached Clearwater Beach. The Gulf of Mexico stretched endlessly blue under the Florida sun, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. Owen and Emma ran straight to the water, laughing as waves lapped at their feet. It's beautiful, Daddy, Emma said, collecting shells in her small hands. This is where we live now. Owen asked, building a sandcastle with the focused intensity he brought to everything. This is where we live now. I confirmed. No more cold winters. No more missing Mom's bedtime stories because she's at work. Just us, the beach, and all the adventures we can handle. I'd already found us a small house 2 blocks from the water, furnished and available for immediate occupancy. The owner, Mrs. Patterson, was a widow who understood about fresh starts and children who needed stability. That evening, as we unpacked in our new home, Owen asked the question I'd been dreading. Is Mommy going to come visit us here? I sat on his bed, choosing my words carefully. Mommy made some choices that hurt our family. Right now, she needs to think about whether she wants to be part of our lives or not. But she loves us, right? Emma added from her bed across the room. In her own way, yes, I said. But sometimes people love things more than they love their families. And when that happens, families have to protect themselves. The twins accepted this explanation with the resilience that children somehow possess. They'd felt Diana's absence long before I made it official. Now, they had a father who was present, engaged, and committed to their happiness above all else. 3 days later, the legal papers arrived at my new address. Diana was demanding immediate return of the children and full custody based on my unstable behavior and kidnapping. Her lawyer painted me as a dangerous man who'd stolen his own children. I handed the papers to my new attorney, Jennifer Walsh, a former prosecutor who specialized in fathers' rights cases. She doesn't have a leg to stand on, Jennifer said after reviewing Diana's claims, especially with the evidence you've provided about her affair and financial misconduct. What happens next? We respond aggressively. File for full custody based on abandonment and moral unfitness. Request supervised visitation only. By the time we're done, Diana will be lucky to get Christmas cards. Diana had declared war on our family. Now she was going to learn what happens when you fight a man who has nothing left to lose except his children. 6 months in Florida changed everything. Owen and Emma thrived near the ocean, their pale phoenix complexions turning golden from daily beach walks. I started Holloway Marine Repair, specializing in boat engines and hydraulic systems. Turns out, the same skills that fixed bulldozers worked perfectly on fishing vessels and pleasure craft. The twins adapted faster than I'd expected. Owen joined Little League and discovered he had a killer curveball. Emma started dance classes and made friends with a neighbor's daughter. They asked about Diana less and less, filling their lives with new adventures and genuine happiness. I met Sophia Harmon at the marina where I kept my small fishing boat. She was photographing pelicans for a nature magazine, all business with her camera and serious expression. When a sudden squall came up, I offered her shelter in my boat's cabin. "You're not from around here," she said, noticing my Arizona accent. "Fresh start," I replied. "Sometimes you need to change everything to remember who you really are." Sophia was 35, divorced, with a 12-year-old daughter named Katie, who lived with her half the time. She understood complicated family situations and didn't ask questions I wasn't ready to answer. The divorce was finalized in October. Diana got supervised visitation rights for 4 hours every other weekend, assuming she paid for travel to Florida. She never made the trip. Her lawyer claimed she was rebuilding her career after losing her partnership and couldn't afford cross-country visits. Translation: Preston Vale had dumped her once the scandal broke, and Diana was discovering that affairs cost more than marriages. That evening, I stood on the beach watching Owen teach Katie how to cast a fishing line while Emma and Sophia collected shells nearby. This was what family looked like, people who chose to be together, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer Walsh, my attorney. "Diana's filing for custody reduction. Claims financial hardship. Want to fight it?" I typed back, "No. If she doesn't want to see her children, that's her choice." Some people spend their whole lives chasing what they think they deserve. Others build something real with what they actually have. I'd finally learned the difference. The call came on a Tuesday morning, exactly 1 year after I'd left Phoenix. Diana had tracked me down through social media, probably seeing photos of the twins on my business page. She was in Florida, wanted to meet, claimed she needed to see her children. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop near the marina. Neutral ground, public place, no surprises. Diana looked older than her 43 years. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced by discount store basics. Her famous confidence had been replaced by something desperate and hollow. "You look good," she said, studying my face for signs of the broken man she'd expected to find. "I am good," I replied. "We're all good. The children, how are they?" "Happy, healthy, thriving. They've made friends, joined activities, built a real life here." Diana's face went pale at my words, the reality hitting her that Owen and Emma had moved on without her. "I made mistakes, James. Terrible mistakes. But I'm their mother." "No," I said quietly. "Sophie is their mother now. You're the woman who abandoned them for a man who dumped you the moment things got difficult." The truth hit Diana like a physical blow. She started crying, ugly sobs that drew stares from other customers. "I want to see them," she whispered. "They don't want to see you. Owen asked me to stop mentioning your name because it made Emma sad. They've accepted that you chose someone else over them." Diana looked through the coffee shop window toward the marina, where Sophia was teaching the kids how to identify different types of boats. A real family doing real family things. You replaced me, Diana said. You replaced yourself, I corrected. I just found someone who actually wanted to be here. Diana left that afternoon without seeing the twins. She sent a card for their birthday 6 months later, signed Love, Mom, like she was a distant relative instead of the woman who'd given birth to them. The card went in the trash, same as all the others. 5 years later, Owen and Emma graduated high school in Florida. They're both attending University of Florida on academic scholarships, studying marine biology and environmental science. They've never asked about visiting Arizona or reconnecting with Diana. Sophia and I married 3 years ago in a small ceremony on the beach. Katie calls me Dad now, and our blended family works because everyone chose to be here. Sometimes I wonder what Diana's doing with her life. Then I remember it doesn't matter. Some people are lessons, not lifelong companions. Diana taught me that love without loyalty is just expensive entertainment. I chose loyalty. I chose my children. I chose to build something real instead of chasing something fake. Best decision I ever made.